There comes a time in every person's life when you realise it's not about doing what you are told, but doing what you know is right for you. Let us take a journey of learning and discovery with the world's most successful people who are living the life of their dreams, walking through life using their inner wisdom and being of service to others. Forget exams, grades and test scores. What is your purpose? As we let go of what we think should be and learn from our elders to gain knowledge, inspiration and a true sense of who we are. What are your dreams? Does your life have meaning? Are you living a life of significance? Let's talk with today's guest. Hello and welcome as we spend some more time together on the Learning on Fire podcast. My name is Mark Taylor. Today I'm talking to Monica Busby. Hi Monica, thanks for joining me and let's explore the journey of who you are.
Hello. Thank you, Mark, for having me at the podcast. Well, my name's Monica Busby, and I am the mama head honcho of eCommerce Kids Institute for Higher Learning here, based in Los Angeles, California. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm really glad you could be on the show, and I love these interviews when everyone's so far away because I'm here just sort of finishing off my day at like 10 at night, and you're just sort of post lunch, sun's still up, and enjoying the main part of the day.
Yeah, I need to be at the beach. The weather's been great today.
Yeah, well, we've had some weird weather here. It was snowing only literally a few weeks ago, and today it's kind of mid-teens, which for us in February is almost like tropical. So I've been out in t-shirt, feeling like I could have been in California, although having been there, not quite. But yeah, for a UK person, it certainly feels that way.
Oh anyway. I would be in trouble because mid-50s is really cold for me.
Thanks very much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited today because we kind of have this mix of not only having someone who's sort of living life on purpose in terms of the way they want to live their life, but they have something that can really help and I think make a difference to you is someone who's able to sort of, I think this idea of education and e-commerce and learning about money and how you sort of fit into all of that's a really key thing. And I think we can all gain a lot from listening to how all that's going to pan out as we go through. But we're going to start as we normally do, just by sort of looking back and seeing how it all started. So what does your life look like now, and how is it different from when you were growing up?
Oh my gosh, I love my lifestyle now. I mean, of course, there's always ways to grow it, but I've always wanted to have more freedom, not just having a 9-to-5 job. And the e-commerce world has definitely allowed not only myself, but my son and my husband to be a part of that with me together as a family. So how it was back then growing up, coming from a Filipino Asian family, typically my parents would have me focus on school a lot. And so I'm kind of one of those Asian nerds that carry a big backpack with lots of books. And my focus was like, I got to get straight A's, or else my life is over. So I would stress out on trying to get straight A's. In high school, I averaged a 4.2, and I took as many advanced placement courses, and all I did was that. I guess that's a good thing for my parents. They didn't have to worry about me going out and partying or something like that. But I was also very involved in sports. And I think a lot of it too was that the camaraderie that I was in, and maybe I was just really lucky, the people that my classmates that were with me, and thanks to my third grade teacher, she had me take this special test, and some kind of IQ test, and it got me into a highly gifted magnet program here in California. And there's certain schools that have that program. And throughout my elementary, junior high school life, it surrounded me with kids that were very studious. And so many of the people in my class that graduated, they went to Harvard, they went to a lot of Ivy League schools. And mind you, this is from a public school program, not a private school that I went to. And a lot of them went to Stanford, Columbia, MIT. And so having that surrounding of kids that are like highly competitive in studying, I was pushed into trying to do well. So when you the question back to your question about how I lived life back then, I think I was more in a bubble of education versus what's life about. And I think I'm hoping that I'm solving that problem bit by bit as I get older. That you want to prioritize what you want to do and how that intertwines with education and lifestyle and living life to the fullest, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of where I think where our minds meet, because this whole podcast network is literally about that. It's that we know that so many people within the education system either feel stuck and wish they knew more different ways of working in it, or they're just very accepting and you just do as you're told, and you sort of chug through the system and you come out the other side. And I think just opening everyone's eyes to that idea that yes, you've got to go to school, you've got to learn, and there are various things that you probably have to do. Actually, within that, you can be aware of other things. There are things outside of the system that you can put your mind to, that you can learn yourself, that you can be exposed to, which changes your whole dynamic and your whole way of looking. And it sounds like that's really sort of where we're coming together.
Yes, and I'm the system doesn't tell you to open your eyes though. Like I'm trying to figure out where was that turning point for me. And there's education is valuable, mind you, because everything you need to learn how to write, you need to learn how to read, right? You need to learn how to make independent decisions. But there's more growth beyond just education. And yeah, I think sometimes it takes kind of a dramatic traumatizing event in your life, which I hope it doesn't, but in my case, I had to go through a traumatizing event before I began saying, well, what is this all about? What is this for? What do I need? Why am I doing all this? So I started asking those crazy questions.
and I think that's it, isn't it? And that really is what we're doing here today. It's why this podcast exists. It's that kind of, hopefully people sharing this with other people around them, or just listening to it in whichever form they've arrived at it, and just so they can hear these questions and have this understanding and this conversation. Like I say before, you have to go through something traumatic or something almost life changing in order to do that. And I think that way the general shift of learning, not just education, will make a change, which would be absolutely brilliant.
Agree.
What was valuable about your school experience? And I get you've already sort of touched on the fact you're sort of surrounded by people, sort of like-minded people, but was there anything else that you can remember?
I would say competition, discipline to get work done. I think as a teenager or preteen, that's very you have to develop those skills. We're not born with it. And so I think having that really in the forefront of my education, my teachers, I must have been blessed or lucky, but the school that I was a part of, and mind you, it's a public school. It wasn't even a private school. It's so different how it is public schools are now, but I had teachers that really cared about making sure your homework was done and done right, and if you even learned from it. Some kids, they do their work, but that doesn't mean they implement what they learn, right? So I obviously didn't implement everything that I learned, but I was learning bit by bit what would be beneficial in my life after the years.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
And sometimes that structure, which is, like I say, sometimes is the thing you want to get out of, because it's a very rigid structure. Actually, while you're getting into that whole way of being, the structure can give you a support mechanism just while you're sort of figuring it out, or just by actually being surrounded in that environment can actually be a positive as well as a negative. Which of those teachers do you remember, and why?
I'm bad, but I forgot her name. It's been so long. But I specifically, when I think about a turning point in my education life, my third grade teacher, I don't know, for some reason she must have took a liking to me, but she would ask me to stay after school and I would just help her around the classroom cleaning up or doing some extra work for her. But she encouraged me to take this test. I'm not sure if it's called an IQ test or whatnot, but it's some kind of advanced placement test. And I didn't know what it was at the time. She just said, "Hey, you're taking this test, go do it." Because I took this test, the school encouraged me to move to another school that had this program called the Highly Gifted Magnet Program. It almost feels like I'm going into some kind of, I don't know, comic book, like superhero program, the way it's said. But it was just, I think that was a turning point because since then, the program that I was into really guided my education. And I think the big thing was it was a classroom of like 13 to 20 kids, not like how it is now where there's like almost 30 kids per classroom. And so I think I had a lot of time spent with the teacher because of the smaller class and a more super focused, um, I was able to be more super focused with the teacher, having them more focused on me than like 30 kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes an awful lot of sense. And also, like you
Yeah.
say, sometimes it's just our elders, whether it's a teacher or whoever around us, who just sees the bigger picture just from their experience, really, and they can influence so much in terms of where our life takes us just by, like you say, take this test, have this opportunity, or why don't you try this out, and I think they're absolutely invaluable, and probably, that's one of the things that we're able to impart on this podcast specifically, because you're going to be talking about eCommerce Kids Institute, and just tell us a bit more now about that. What can we impart into the people listening who actually can get some benefit out of that?
Well, the story behind that was I wasn't planning on it, but I had, in a way, like no choice or was just dropped into my son at the time. Funny enough, he was in third grade.
It's obviously the place
And
to be when
I
things
know
change.
we're third grade again for some reason. But the teachers in his school had mentioned that they were telling me that he was falling behind in reading and comprehension. And I was he at that age he wasn't completing a sentence basically, and they were recommending that I would put him into a special ed class, and I wasn't sure if that was the best for my son. And the great thing, the amazing thing was that knowing that there were options out there now where you can be more hands-on, not just letting your child um, be dependent on a school, but you can be as more of a proactive parent nowadays, to see what other things your child can learn. And so homeschooling ended up being another option. And I started homeschooling him. And lucky enough for me, I was an entrepreneur my whole life. So it has allowed, because I own my own businesses, it allowed me to work my way around not only being an entrepreneur, but being a homeschooling mom. And I said, well, what should I teach him on top of basic skills? And mind you, I didn't do this myself. Like, I am not a certified teacher, so I had to bring a community of knowledgeable teachers around me, um, to help guide me with Jarrell. So I wasn't alone, and I believe that having that village of people teaching an individual helps. I asked, well, what am I good at? And I said, well, I could teach him how to start a business. And he was 12 at the time, and I asked myself, well, what, I don't want him to open up a lemonade stand, which is like a typical kid business, right?
Mhm.
Opening up a lemonade stand. And I'm like, well, e-commerce is kind of growing right now. Let's learn that. And we don't have to spend a lot of money opening up a physical store somewhere. This is all online. And we learned for a year, and I brought it down to literally three basic steps for him. And I invested $120 for him to start the business. And within 3 months, he turned that around into $3,300 in
Wow.
profit. And he was only 12 years old. He was working 5 hours a week on his business. And I was like, well, light bulb moment. And I'm like, what is going on here? How did he do this for basic stuff? We're not talking, he didn't make $1 million, but I'm like, how many people out there would love to have a job at 5 hours a week, right? And making, that kind of money. And so it was just like, well, my son was like, well, why don't we teach this to other kids? Because kids my age are getting ready for college. That's a huge expense. We're going to be driving soon. We need to buy a car. And it's really interesting because a lot of kids in this generation, they're really getting smart into trying to buy their own stuff, or um, they understand the value of like, okay, I need to start making money. I don't know where they're getting this, but at least the kids that I've been running into lately, they want to be an entrepreneur. Um, so that's how e-commerce kids was born back in 2015. And we just asked family and friends in the beginning just to see if this even works. And our first year, we had over 70 kids join the program. And I think the first year, our kids collectively probably made over 100 to 200,000 dollars in revenue collectively
Wow.
on our first year. I don't have the numbers for 2018, but 2017 we had 52 solid kids that are really building up their business, and they generated 3.7 million in revenue just in 2017. So it works.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Something in there works. And I think what we really focus on is really the foundation, because e-commerce is so vast. It's like a jungle out there. And there's not one route that'll get you to, your six figure, seven figure, eight figure. There's many, many ways. It's like a spider web, but it's a matter of being guided on where and exactly how, what you start with what you're passionate about, because you don't want to be selling something you don't like to sell or you don't want to be a part of. So we focus on something that they love, and and use that to monetize their passions. And so hopefully that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, and we talk about this on the podcast all the time. Following your passion, following the things you're interested in, because then it doesn't feel like study, it doesn't feel like work, does it? It's just being smart about how you use your knowledge and your passion in order to bring that revenue in, and I think that's a great sort of two-hander there to really understand. And it sounds like if you're teaching the principles, but you've then got that flexibility in terms of where you take that as an individual, then like you say, at any point in your life as you're then growing beyond that, you can use those principles and turn it into whichever direction you want to.
Absolutely. And there's so many options out there. And I think people in general just need to be able to be open to that, like to just think outside the box. And there's just vast opportunities.
Yeah.
I guess looking at it as half full versus half empty, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's right. And am I right in
Yeah.
thinking that you've got a new program opening up again soon?
Yes. So e-commerce kids is in hiatus during the holidays, but we start again. We have our next class coming up on March 14th, and basically it's a boot camp. It's 90 days of learning Amazon as well as having a growth mindset. So, because for me, what I'm realizing is a lot of kids that do not do well is because they're not mentally prepared to have the discipline to build the work ethic to even start a business. And so we do that hand in hand, where we teach them even how to set goals and how to run the business. And in putting that together, I think we've helped kind of like the next level of building that success formula for them.
That's great, because it's like I say, it's that personal success as well as the business success, and as you say, they often are hand in hand and integral to each other. So it's a really important factor. And just for if you're listening to this, we're going to have all the details on the show notes and links to all of the ways of getting in contact and all that kind of thing. So you can go to educationonfire.com, and in the search bar, just write in Monica Busby, and it'll bring up for you. So we'll have all that for you. So it's a very easy click through to find out more details.
Wonderful. Yay.
So who did you admire when you were young, and what was it about that person that had such an impact?
Wow, there's a lot of people that impacted me, but the one that really comes to mind is my mother. She was a single parent throughout my life growing up, And I really admired how hard she really worked. And to a point, she raised two kids, and she became a homeowner on her own. And she even had the ability to even help her siblings. So I never even, just the feeling of growing up, I didn't feel poor. I had all of my basic needs. And she was a computer engineer, and just her determination, her work ethic. I don't know, maybe that's probably where I got it from. And she would always instill in me that I could do anything. I just remember every time I had conversations with her, she would say, "Well, Monica, you could do this or you could do that." I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because in the growing up in my 20s, I felt like I could do everything. And you don't want to be a master of none, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I had to kind of like hone it down, like, okay, I got to be good at one thing at a time. But I loved how she was just a great encourager, and just seeing how she got through many of the tough times. I've seen her cry a lot, but I also seen her kind of step up and move and not quit. And showing that she's human, but also showing that she can overcome. And I think that was like her biggest quality.
And I think it's really easy sometimes for people to sort of overlook the impact that the people immediately around them offer. And of course, it's often the immediate family, but also sort of friends and relations around you as well. Because not that you even necessarily take them for granted, but they're just there. It's part and parcel of your life, and it's only, like you say, looking back sometimes that you sort of put all the pieces together and understand it. And I think to understand how that is when you're slightly younger in your life is a real gift, because you probably get more out of it earlier. I suppose is maybe what
Hmm.
happens.
Absolutely.
What was the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
Whew. That was probably one of the hardest questions to answer, because there's so, I mean, I truly believe that people are in your life for a reason, either to give you advice or show you the way or all those things. And one thing that comes to mind, I would say the last 10 years, I believe you want to grow every aspect of your life. And I've also grown spiritually. And I think, to answer this question, one of the best advice someone has given to me actually was the big man upstairs. And he had said, "You can do all things through Jesus Christ who gives you strength." And to me, that was, and it could be whatever higher power you believe in, but to me, he, him saying that to me throughout the years, I felt like there was a kind of something, like a weight lifted off of my shoulders, because all my life I felt like I had to do everything myself. I had to make things happen. And to me it was like stressful. All the struggles, I had to get out of it. I had to persevere. And so knowing that there's something else behind you, kind of like giving you power or giving you that strength, I felt like there was like some powerful force that, like, having that power, almost like a superhero. I always compare it to like superhero powers, able to guide and strengthen me through my entire journey. And I've used that through completing my first full Ironman. Like when I compare it, like mind you, over the years, I've been overweight and obese. I would be like 50 pounds overweight. And to do a full Ironman 2 years ago, and I'll probably have to share my whole fitness story. um, to be able to lose the 50 pounds and do a full Ironman, and now racing across the country on a bicycle in 7 days,
Wow.
and wanting to complete doing a marathon, doing achieving things that I honestly couldn't do by myself. And I think that was just given me kind of a whole new mindset. So yes, that was the biggest advice I think that I continue to use throughout my life.
And what advice would you give your younger self now?
Ooh, a lot. But the main one is I would say get a mentor, a coach, and have them keep you fully accountable. I think as kids we definitely have not developed the habits to do well continually or to grow. And I was kind of all over the place. Even though I was educated, that doesn't mean I was educated in life. And I made bad decisions because I just didn't have the knowledge, or I was naive in life situations, relationship situations that have gotten me in trouble. And I think if I had somebody there that had the experience, um, I would have been in a better place. And I think a lot of the kids don't value that. They may not have looked at their teachers like that. But I implore you to just listen to an older person that you believe you have what you want, and you have the respect, and hear them out and see what you can learn. Because if you can learn from their mistakes, why do you need to go through a mistake? Right? Like, if you can learn from somebody else's mistake, you just saved yourself some heartache, and you can make other mistakes. Because you will have mistakes, and be okay with that, right? Honor the struggle. But I believe, like, as a younger self, if I just had the right people in front of me, more of the right people, and surrounding myself with the right friends and camaraderie, because you are who you hang out with. So if you are hanging out with people that are negative, guess what? Most likely you will become a negative person. So if you surround yourself with people that are high achievers and that make more money, or that are knowledgeable in the area you want to be, then most likely you're going to become that person. I think it's just natural. So yeah, get a mentor.
The mental things come up a lot in the recent weeks on the podcast, and it's definitely something I'm being drawn to. It just every time I sort of think about it, and then someone else says mentor. So I think it's entering into my life in some way or another. But I think certainly you said the people you surround yourself with, and in this day and age, with with the online world and this podcast, it's you can surround yourself with so many people very very easily, and
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, all of you, which I'm always so grateful for. You share so much wisdom in terms of your experiences, as well as the resources and that, which we'll go into in a minute. And you've got this sort of wealth of library just by listening to people chat to you week in, week out. And I just think in this day and age, that's just such a gift.
And you know what, Mark? What's so amazing how about with social media now is that you have no excuse. Like, you can literally access the top of the top person in where you need to go. Like, if you want to be like Oprah, you can literally have the access to her now, like through Twitter,
Yeah,
like what she's thinking, or where she's going to be at. Like, a lot of these influential people, what I'm realizing, they're really open to wanting to help other people and speaking. They do a lot of speaking engagements, or they're on social media. So I love that you can have more access to the top of the top, out there right now. So I love it.
yeah, that positive social media and that like I say accessibility, and there's as we know, there's pros and cons to those, but I think when it's used really properly and with integrity, I think it's a really powerful thing, like you said. What does your future look like?
Ooh, I love asking and telling myself this all the time. Um, you know, I love adventure. I'm realizing that I'm not the type of person that could be in a cubicle. Just me, my personality. I love to travel. I love to experience new things. I think most people naturally gravitate towards that. I picked up a bicycle 5 years ago, and it wasn't my intention. It was like a friend of mine just said, "Let's go cycling," and I'm like, "Why?" And I fell in love with it. It was also, I didn't realize the cycling community is a very social community. Like everybody, I'm realizing people that ride, they're just naturally happy. They just have a more positive outlook. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them, because maybe they're in nature more. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the sport. And one day I was looking online and I found this organization called Fuller Center Bicycle Adventure. And they literally, what they do every year is they get a group of people and they ride across the country, America, by the way, specifically America. They ride from one end to the continent to the other end in about 10 weeks. And I'm like, that is so ridiculous. And I said, that's so awesome. I was like, this is so crazy that I need to do it. And I just signed up and said and at that time I was married with a child. And I was like, I had to woo my husband. I'm like, okay, husband, this is gonna be a life changer for me, and I need your support. And luckily he was a very supportive husband and allowed me to be gone for 10 weeks. It was almost like a boot camp for me, not just physically, but I came out of there like mentally and physically strong. I came back and I'm like, okay, I got to get rid of toxic relationships. I got to, you know, educate myself more in this area in my life. I got to for some reason it was just kind of um blew me away as far as more opportunities. And so the way I want my future is to continue that journey. I've cycled 48 states out of 52 so far in the last 5 years. I'm missing only Hawaii and Alaska. And I'm actually going to be cycling in the UK pretty soon. I'm
Oh, brilliant.
moving on to Europe and Asia. Well, why not? I'll just keep cycling as far as I can go every year. And I'm seeing my business, my lifestyle to be within that lifestyle that I want. So that means, luckily, that I'm in the e-commerce world. I don't need to physically be in one location all the time. I mainly just need my laptop and bring my husband along. I want a 50-year marriage with him. And I want to take e-commerce kids to the White House. I think there's a need for education reform, not only in my country, but I think worldwide. Just having opportunities for kids to go beyond look more into the full capabilities of not just studying, but honing into their passions and strengthening that. I'm saying in our business to hit the 9-figure range. I definitely see that going in the next couple of years. So yeah, I got a lot of work to do, but prioritizing what puts a fire in me. And I think the traveling and that lifestyle of cycling has been what triggered me to make more money, to have a passionate relationship, um, to have a growth mindset.
And all of these things, they're all part of the whole, aren't they? Like you say, the cycling triggers the ethic and the work and the ability to do this and to think about this, and they all just spiral off each other. And it's amazing how just doing the one thing now that you can do, whatever that happens to be, has a great knock-on effect to everything in your life.
Absolutely. Whatever that triggers you, man, I highly encourage you to tap into that. Like what is that? Because if you don't have that fire inside you, I just feel like there's no vibrancy, there's no liveliness to your life. And I think a lot of people are asleep. They just need to be woken up somehow.
Great. Well,
So,
we're here doing that, so that's all
yeah,
we can do today, which is absolutely brilliant.
love it. Thank you.
What podcast, book, video, film, or song, or any resource has had the biggest impact on your life, and why is that?
Right now, I highly, highly recommend Brennan Burchard's High Performance Habits. I don't know if you've heard of him,
I have,
Mark, but
yeah.
oh my gosh, he's just been blowing me away. And I love the fact that he's very process driven. So a lot of times we're like, well, how do I get more productive? How do I really achieve my goals and beyond? And he really goes into developing your habits through your life, and not just regular habits, like high performing habits, like taking it up the next step. So I'm planning to be actually I'm looking into being a certified coach in his program this fall. And I believe he's like the number one marketer online right now, and he has a lot of New York Times bestseller, not just his high performance habits, but yeah, he has some amazing courses. So I'm really studying him right now specifically because I'm trying to break old habits. I'm constantly trying to break old habits, and I can be naturally lazy. So I'm trying to like, okay, how do I like be more productive? Like one little tweak that I could figure out that could be a game changer, not just for my life, but for my business. And I'm realizing a lot of wealthy people, wealthy in health, wealthy in finance, wealthy in whatever it is in their life relationship, they spend time mastering it, and not just repetitively but progressively mastering whatever it is that they're getting good at in their life. So
Yeah, I love that progressively mastering. That's great because just that kind of it's all moving on, it's all ebbing and flowing, it's all getting somewhere. And and the other thing I loved is the fact that someone being lazy who's practically single-handedly cycling around the world is just a brilliant concept.
I should write a book, from laziness to around the world. I
Absolutely,
don't
absolutely. Oh, fantastic! So, for those people who want to find out more, and especially about the e-commerce Kids Institute, what's the best way for people to find out and get in contact?
You could visit our website, ecommercekidsinstitute.com. We're also on Facebook specifically, and yeah, you can catch me as well on Facebook, Monica Busby. So we're pretty accessible. Website, perfect way.
Lovely. Well, thank you, Monica, for sharing your wisdom and allowing us to learn from your experiences.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Learning on Fire podcast. For more information, please visit educationonfire.com and follow the links from the homepage. This show is sponsored by the National Association for Primary Education. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.